If you want to get out of those small bras, you're going to have to do the same exercise and technique I do.
There's an exercise?
Of course there is. You hold your arms out like this and you say, I must increase my bust. I must increase my bust.
Does that really work?
I'm living proof. Now come on, get up. Get up. You'll see. Get up. I must increase my bust.
I must increase my bust.
Chin up. We must increase our bust. We must increase our bust. We must increase our bust. Shut up.
We
You're
must
so
increase
stupid.
our bust.
Shut up.
I feel it working.
Mom!
Hello and welcome to Book versus Movie. This is a podcast where we read books that have been adapted into movies and then we try to decide which we like better, the book or the movie. I am Margot P. of coloniabook.com and this is my good friend and co-host Margot D. of Brooklyn Fit Chick.
Hi, everyone.
So we think we're here. We were just saying it's Mercury retrograde and it's really having its way with us. But I don't know about you. I'm so excited to talk about this week's book and movie. We both purchased it in paperback. I'm so glad I did because it's so cool to have it in the way that I remember reading it. This is the book that was so important to our generation growing up. And the movie we just saw, it just came out. They actually were showing it on the airplane when I was flying back Southwest. If you ever fly, for those of you who, I fly Southwest like too much. And they have free in-flight movies. You can bring them up on your phone. And they had this movie. This movie was on the free in-flight. So I watched some of it on. We will begin talking about today's book and movie in just a moment. But in case you've just recently discovered us, wherever it is that you get your podcasts, yeah, this is a podcast where we talk about movies that have been adapted from books, but we try to crank out a new episode every single week. So that means sometimes we're going to do a shorter literary source. It might be a poem, it might be a YA piece like we're doing today. It might be a play or a magazine article or a memoir. As long as it has some kind of a literary source, we will consider it. The only rules that we have really is that it is available to the general public. So people should be able to stream the movie easily. They should be able to get their hands on the book very easily. This book is so easy to find. I read it on the Libby app, and then I also bought the paperback. Mm-hmm. But we are always looking to suggestions, which is my point of all of that little ramble. And if you have suggestions of books and movies that you would like for us to cover, there's a few places where you can make those suggestions. You can meet other listeners of this podcast and interact with us on the internet.
Yes, we do have a basic Facebook page. Just type in Book vs. Movie Podcast. All the episodes are posted there. We're very interactive and more interactive, most interactive in our Facebook group. So you do have to join a private group, ask to join. And it's a really nice space. People just talk about books and movies and old-time movie stars there, book news, that kind of thing, book bannings and things like that. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at Book versus and Movie. You could reach out to us there. Or we have an old-timey email, bookversusmoviepodcast@gmail.com. And Margot, we have a new listener who just found us a couple of weeks ago, and he asked for stickers and a coaster. And I said, I got some coasters for you, buddy. So if you are interested, wherever you are, he's in England, by the way. If you would like some stickers or whatever, just email us your address and we will drop them in the mail for you.
That's so awesome. I just love our listeners.
Yes.
They're
nice people.
I'm telling you, we were just saying before we got on the air that, as I mentioned, like this Mercury retrograde is kind of kicking our booties a little bit. And it's things like this that make me feel like it's all going to be okay. So nice to have our lovely little book club on Facebook and get to like just chat about books and fun stuff. And if you really, really enjoy the show and you would like to help us keep the lights on around here, you can also support us on Patreon.
Yes, that's Patreon. We've been doing this show for 9 years now. So what we've decided to do, we can't believe it either, we have 2 years worth of shows that are in our main feed. They're for free. You can get them anywhere. But anything previous to that, we've put them on the Patreon wall. We have a couple of very affordable options. And we literally use that money to get the books and the movies, and it helps us pay for streaming services and the software. And recent episodes we posted up there, The Stepford Wives, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Turn of the Screw, Psycho, and The Silence of the Lambs. And I would like to say hello and thank you to Shanna, I hope it's pronounced Shanna, for signing up. We really appreciate you joining our Patreon page.
Thank you so much. It's September as we're recording this, which in the United States is Banned Book Month. Mm-hmm. And it's good and it's bad. It's fun in terms of this podcast because those books tend to be really good books. Mm-hmm. It's always very sad. We've done this for several years now because these books are, in many cases, like masterworks of literature. And at the very least, culturally extremely important books that have helped millions of children mm-hmm. over the years. And today's book and author is one of those books. I mean, she is, as we were just saying, especially for our generation in particular, but my kids and probably my grandkids, such an important author. I mean, I don't even know where to begin with Judy Blume. I've read almost everything. I've not read her things that she's written for adults. Oh, but I've certainly
didn't read Wifey?
I didn't read Wifey. Oh. No. Did you? Is it good?
Oh, it's great. It's trash, but it's great.
Okay, I'll read
wonderful.
It. No, but I've read
and Summer
all of
Sisters
her
I really liked.
Oh, yeah. I think I did read that one. Mm-hmm. But one of my favorite books of hers is maybe her most autobiographical, at least in terms of her childhood, and it's starring Sally J. Friedman as herself.
Yes.
And I read her bio at some point, like when I was in high school or something. I remember reading her biography. I must have done a project on her or something like that. But this book in particular, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, is, first of all, it's super good. It's super funny, but you have to understand, like even today, I think this is, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this is true. Like even today, young women are not educated about our bodies and what happens and hormones and puberty and all of that kind of very difficult period of life. We get very little information mm-hmm. about what's going to happen and how to deal with it, what to look for and when to know to be concerned and when to not be concerned. I was thinking about on your other podcast, you recently did mermaids.
Yes.
And there's that scene where Winona Ryder thinks she's pregnant.
Yeah, because she kissed a boy. Because she kissed
a boy. And that was what it was like before this book. Mm-hmm. Like that's what we're talking about. So, yeah, if that character had if Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, she would have known she was not pregnant. Mm-hmm. But let's talk about, and she's such a positive light in the onslaught of ick that gets thrown at this poor woman. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about Judy Blume.
Did I ever tell you I met her?
No.
Okay, so about 15 years ago, maybe more, I worked at Child Magazine just for a couple of years. It's no longer in print, sadly to say. A lot of the magazines I work on are no longer in print. But we had a Children's Champion Awards. We did it a couple of times. And Judy Blume was one of our winners, and I arranged for Tony Danza to present her the award. I have a whole Tony Danza story I could tell you. We had Paul Newman there and Joanne Woodward. It was Jeffrey Canada was there, who's like a big time. I'm telling you, yeah, she's just like you think she's going to be. She is love and light in a human being. She loves kids. And she says, everybody calls her Judy Blume, like her full name. And she says she loves it. We're both Margot, but I'm actually born a Margaret, and I'm a Margaret Ann. And I didn't remember that until I read this book again. I started crying. I cried a couple of times, Margot, this week, reading this book and then watching this movie.
So much over this book and movie.
Oh my God. In the good way, the best kind of tears.
In the good way, in the best possible way, Mainly because I thought I had forgotten how much I had learned from this book. You know, I read it when I was in sixth grade. I was 10. Because I had skipped a grade. So I was in the same grade as Margaret, but she was older than I was. So I wasn't quite going through those things yet, you know, but all the other girls in my class were. And I had forgotten quite how much information I had gotten from that book. And I am not a Margaret. I'm Margot, but I certainly, like, you can't help but relate.
Yeah.
And this is true of all of her books, even the books that had, and this was like revolutionary too. She was writing young adult fiction for boys, with boys as the main character. And the boys are not like stranded on a desert island and having to survive, or, you know, stuck in the forest with their dog and nobody else. You know, it was like really about their emotional lives and family dynamics and the struggles of being a young American boy.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I was, so my story is that I moved when I was 11, and I go to a new school, and I developed early, and I had like a lot of like, I didn't want to stick out at all. I didn't want to be different. And so reading this book was just like, because she gives you the interior for a lot of different people, or their motivations. So you can kind of see, we'll talk about Nancy and what she does and says, but how Margaret deals with all this and just dealing with disappointment. And life is about dealing with disappointment. And that's like, Margaret's got to learn to deal. But let's talk about Judy Blume first. I mean, and there's a film out called Judy Blume Forever. And I believe it's on Netflix or Amazon, but it's streaming. And if you get a chance and if you love her, definitely, because she's just a goddess. I don't want to overplay her as a human, but who's better? I mean, seriously. She was born Judith Sussman in Elizabeth, New Jersey, 1938. She went to NYU. She was married. You know, she got married in the late 50s. Like a lot of women, like she's around my mother's age. You get married, you have kids, you live in the suburbs, and she was a very creative person, and she just started writing. And this is her first, I mean, she wrote 2 books before this, but this is like 1970. She releases this book. 1970, the world just changes, by the way. It's 50 years ago plus, but it might as well in some ways be 100 years ago or 200 years ago. I mean, people still have a hard time. And there's laws. Ron DeSantis passed a law in Florida trying to say that girls, like, you can't talk about menstruation until you're 12 or 13. When girls are getting their period at 10 or 11, or they have sisters who get them.
What is this?
What
are you doing to these girls? I just cannot with Florida and the kids. I just can't sleep at night with Florida and the kids. How?
So the story also, the reason why it's controversial it's revolutionary, by the way, and revolutionaries are controversial, is like Margot said, like she gave an interior life to an 11-year-old girl who's just like worrying about what 11-year-old girls worry about. What am I going to be like when I grow up? Is it going to be scary? Will I be able to handle it? You know, what part of you wants to be a kid, and then a part of you also wants to grow and do new things. And my parents are weird, and you know, it's just
and peer pressure. And I mean, all of it,
and that's your whole world.
And
you know, she's also written. Let's just say, like, some of the notable works: Tiger Eyes, Tales of Fourth Grade Nothing. I remember my fourth grade teacher reading that to us. Blubber, which is my favorite, even though
I love Blubber.
It's messed up, but it's true. But so there was a book called Forever, which was a dirty book that we all passed around. Everybody knew the pages. Everyone knows about Harold.
We all learned so much from her, you know, and she made these things that for us, for you and I being children in the 70s, you know, we were still being educated with materials from the 50s and 60s.
Yes, we were.
You know, I switched from public school to Catholic school in the middle of 7th grade, I think it was. And so I had sex ed in public school in like the 5th or 6th grade. I can't remember which. But in Catholic school, they didn't do it until 7th or 8th grade. And I don't know about you, but the movie, they would separate the girls and the boys.
Of course. And then some kids
Because
were excused. And some kids had to put no from their parents. They were like, no, they can't. Christian Scientists and stuff.
And then they would show us these films. And then the last film would always be of a baby being born to like terrify you out of ever having sex. But I remember in both instances, like the both times that I went through sex ed, the film that they showed us, it must have been sponsored by like Playtex or something, but it was with the belt.
Yes.
And the version of Are You There, God? I'm sure that you read too. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret was with, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, sanitary pads. They didn't have maxi pads or mini pads. They had just pads, which were huge. And they were so huge that you had to wear a belt with a hook on the front and a hook on the back.
Do you remember a little bit bobby pin kind of thing, safety pins that they used to include? Safety pins.
They had like a little hole on the end of each one, and you would hook it on the front and hook it on the back. How it stayed in place during the day, I do not know. They still sold those, I remember, when I was a little kid.
They were in the R2D2s in my school. Like the school must have bought so many in the 70s. And then by the time I got my period,
they were everywhere.
And they wanted a quarter for them or something like that too. On top, they made us buy them, which is like,
we used to have to buy them. I mean, but she was the one who told us, like, it's going to be scary, but don't worry, it's going to be okay. And I mean, that book in particular is the thing that tells us young girls in particular the stuff that we actually want to know. Does it hurt? What does it mean? Am I different? Am I a woman now? All of the questions that we have that don't get answered by the stupid film with the cartoon fallopian tubes and the belt.
The fallopian. My mother even really tried, because I asked her. I pulled one of those out of the bathroom. It's like, Mom, what's this for? And she sat me down and she went all into the uterine lining and all this stuff. I just spaced out. I'm like, I can't even. Oh no. Too soon. Too much. Too soon. I mean, you're awesome for being direct, but it's also scary, and you feel different, and nobody tells you anything.
Talking to you about it,
right?
And you don't know if you're the only one who's going through it. And so to have this book that has a character who's having all of those same questions and worries and stressors, plus her family dynamic is so fascinating. It was so interesting. I hadn't read it in a long time. And I just wanted to mention Judy Blume. Blume was the name of her first husband. She's been married
John Blume.
3 times.
Yes, 3 times.
Yeah. But that's the name that she kept as her kind of nom de plume. And a couple of her things have been adapted into film, but we'll get to this movie in a little bit. Anyway, is there anything else we want to say about Judy Blume? I mean, she's just the best. She's
the best. She's still with us. She has a bookstore in Florida that she's in sometimes. She's wonderful. She's a reason why a lot of kids get into reading. I know for me, I had my shelf of my Judy Blume books, and
same.
Holding them in my hands and reading her stories, just filled me with just so much joy in my life and made me feel like somebody understood me. And that's like it's an incredible feeling when you don't feel like you have that.
It's so powerful.
Yes.
And I'm remembering now too that all of these books, including Forever, which for those of you who've never read Forever, it's about a teenage girl and her boyfriend, and it's basically like their journey to having sex for the first time, and kind of her initiation into that part of her life.
Right.
But I remember getting all of those books, including Forever, out of the school library.
No, Forever was the one we weren't allowed to have. I know that.
It was in one of my, maybe not my Catholic school library, but I'm pretty sure it was in my public school library.
It was the one my mom would try to take from me, and then I would find it. It was a cat and mouse game. But
I know. For some reason, that was like a bridge too far for our moms.
Right. Because the character is a senior in high school, so she's still she's a teenager. So some parents freaked out about that. I mean, it's about a senior in high school who falls in love. carefully, she and her boyfriend decide, let's have sex, but we'll be careful and we'll do this and this. And then they think they're going to go to college together, but then in the long run, they realize, look, spoiler, nah, probably not. Like, this was great. This was awesome.
This is probably just all this was.
Yeah. But it was awesome. It was amazing. You know, I'm glad this journey happened. But just what life is like.
It's very tame.
Yes.
Yeah, man. So, but this book, I had forgotten how well I remembered this book. I had forgotten how much this book is like in my brain all the time. I did not realize, like, I knew exactly what's going to happen next. I know exactly what the grandma's going to say when she shows up at the door. I know, I knew all this stuff. And, but reading it as an adult and as a mom whose daughter has already gone through all of this stuff, the first thing that struck me that I had never really noticed before was how awesome her parents are.
I mean, that's another
great.
thing. I know. They're so understanding. They're so loving and patient and cool. They're just very mellow.
And when they well,
I mean, there's just her though. Let's remember, there's just her.
There's only her. She's an only child.
Mm-hmm.
Her Margaret Simon, her father was Jewish and her mother was Christian. We don't quite know precisely what denomination, but Christian. And when they got married, and again, this was another time, like this was super taboo. When they got married, they decided, religion has caused so much conflict between our two families. We're not going to impose that on our daughter. We're just going to, just raise her kind of what we was now today, they say agnostic, and let her decide when she gets older, which sounds cool when it's a baby. And as someone who raised my own children this way, it mostly goes okay. But then like stuff comes up like, so why do we celebrate Easter? And then you have to explain like about zombie Jesus and
David Sedaris
for the first time. Like if they haven't grown up in it, it's very shocking to children.
David Sedaris has a whole story about learning French and he teaching what Easter was to a group of like French speaking students. And there was the Islamic person who was like, "You kidding me? What?" Like,
it sounds absurd.
And it's not the craziest thing that we're taught.
No. And so, but she has her two sides of her family are very religious. And so she is not ignorant of that. But her parents, her father gets a promotion and they moved from New York City, where they lived in a little, New York City apartment, down the street from her grandmother, who she saw every day after school. Now they're moving to New Jersey, which was the country, mm-hmm. which it kind of is. You have a house with a yard and a real house, and totally different kind of environment that she's lived in. All new kids. I switched schools at that age. You switched schools at that age. You know what it's like. Like it is rough being the new kid at that age. And so there's a lot. But I really appreciated that her parents didn't do what my parents did. And what a lot of, it's just the way parents did these things in those days. Her parents are just different than that. But a lot of parents in those days, and even today, would be like, well, tough. This is where we're moving now. And this is your new school. And that's where you're going. And that's that. But they are very like, I know, like this kind of sucks for you. We get that, we're sorry. But in the long run, this is going to be best for the family. You'll see. But yeah, it's going to suck for you for a while. Sorry. And like when we'll get to when she's going on vacation and they destroy her vacation. Like they're really genuinely sorry about it. They really have compassion for her about it. And I really like that and it's partly because she is an only child, I think. Right. That they're this really, really tight unit, and they sort of talk to her like she's an adult. They don't really talk down to her, whereas the other moms in the story definitely do talk down to her. So that's kind of cool too, to see. And also, like, I thought, the grandma kind of hit me a little different as an older person. Everything, the teacher. Yeah. Like, I never really thought about the teacher before. Like, oh yeah, he's a brand new teacher.
He's a kid.
So she moves to New Jersey. She's going to this new school. And she meets one of the girls comes over and like invites her over right away, which sometimes happens. And she immediately sees like suburban house with suburban mom is different than my house with my city mom. Okay, this is going to be a little bit different. And how am I going to fit in here? And I love that character of Nancy. Like we all knew a Nancy. Right,
who's real pretty and special in her family, bed. right, and has the cool clothes and just has life, but basically right in the palm of her hand. And I love she has a noisy brother with noisy friends, which is the environment I grew up in. And so she's like, and we should say with Margaret also, like her religious grandparents on her mother's side haven't met her, from what I understand. Like the parents get married, they eloped, so they didn't even have a wedding because her parents were so against their involvement with each other, so they never even met Margaret, which sucks. Which sucks.
But I didn't realize reading it as a young person how much it sucked.
Yeah,
like reading it as an adult with children. I'm like, what kind of a freaking monster? Like, who does that?
Right.
How could you do that? It's so upsetting. And it made me really so upset for her mom and her dad. It's so terrible. And I really love, and again, it just didn't hit me before reading it as a kid that Margaret's reaction to learning this, because she learns that over the course of this book. She didn't know that before. She's just one day, she's 12 now. And she's like, well, wait a minute. How come we always hang out with Dad's mom, but I've never even met your parents? What's that about? And when her mom finally tells her, she's just like, she's so filled with compassion for her mom and her dad, but especially her mom. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of this age is such a difficult age. And this is an age where a lot of moms and daughters have a lot of conflict. And so this story is so nice that these two, the mom and the daughter, are really trying to do their best with each other all the time, which I think is kind of nice. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I really loved Margaret's reaction to that, because it's the sane reaction. Like what kind of she knows her own mother would never do that.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah. And her grandmother just loves Margaret so much and is so involved in her life, talks to her every day after school at the same time, and wants her to be Jewish, by the way. And but doesn't push her too much, but is like kind of dangles it out there. If you ever want to go to temple, I can arrange that. So Margaret is going through and this is one of the reasons why I realize now, like, why it's banned or was banned. One, talking out the periods and menstruation was just infuriating. But also, like you said, she's agnostic. She just wasn't raised with a particular faith. And if you never were, and then all of a sudden people talk to you about it, you're not going to just decide right away. You're going to mull it over, and you're going to... And
that's a very good point. And it does make me wonder if that isn't also one of the reasons why this book is banned.
Yeah.
Because let's not be talking about religion as a choice.
I should say, by the way, I'm sorry, maybe plug my friend Alicia Gaddis. She wrote a book called Periods, Period. She co-wrote a book with another person.
That's a great book.
It's a great book. And it's, if you're looking to give a book to a kid about that, I mean, sure, give them Are You There, God Be Margaret, but also give them that one as well, by the way.
Highly recommend.
Yes.
So
Margaret goes to the school, and she's very lucky because she meets Nancy, and Nancy's kind of cool, and Nancy's got two other friends. So she shows up the first day. She's got friends, and she's got a little clique that they have together, and they're the BTSs, the
PTSs, which isn't that isn't in the movie at all, which is fine, but they're the preteen sensations.
Yes. So
that's the name of their little club that they've made.
And they have
with arbitrary rules, like don't wear socks with loafers.
Which her mother says to her, and I somebody who sold shoes to put myself through college. I was like, you don't want to do that with the first pair. You need socks or a little thingy, pads. But so they have rules like that, and they all have to wear a bra. And so Margaret then has to say to her mom, can we go bra shopping? Which is, boy, is that a thing.
Is that the worst thing ever to ask your mom? And you only ever ask because the other girls are pressuring you to wear a bra. No, most moms, here's another thing that didn't even occur to me as a kid, but most moms, I think, or a lot of moms, I don't want to throw all the moms in, but a lot of moms, when you ask this question, because you ask this question way before you really need a bra. And, moms are busy. They don't have time for things that you don't actually need, and I get that as a mom. And so your inclination is to be like, we're not doing that. You don't need that, which as a kid feels horrible. But Margaret's mom's like, oh, you think you need, okay. All right, well, we'll go. Okay. Yeah. We can't go today, but yeah, no, we will do that, and she's so understanding. She knows Margaret doesn't need a bra.
Let's say also, she's in a really good position. Well, she was a painter in New York and she used to teach a lot. So now she's home. So she's got time on her hands. So she does, so she has that little extra time to give to Margaret, but they have to get the bra. They have to have a boy book where they talk about the boys they have a crush on. So Margaret's got a couple of crushes she's like working on. And there's a girl what's her name? She's like really tall and pretty and developed, and everybody
Laura
Dandra. She's super pretty and tall, and she's already built, like they would say now. And she was and so they all there's the rumor going around that she goes back at the A&P with boys, lets them feel her up. And so there's rumors that are going around about some people. So she's learning the rules of like what's acceptable, what's not acceptable.
Right.
So you're supposed to like push the boundary, but not shove the boundary over, all this stuff.
And can I just say that in the summer of the Barbie movie, this book is the trailblazer. Mm-hmm. Like without this book, there's no Barbie movie. It brings up all the themes.
Yeah.
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 What is, you want to be, because they want to wear bras, right? They want to wear bras. They're the we must, and but not too much.
Right.
Because then you're going to end up like Laura, who goes behind the A&P and lets boys feel her up. We don't want to be that, but we do want to wear a bra. We do want to develop our breasts. And we do want to do this, and we do want to do that. We do want to play spin the bottle, but we don't want to do too much. We don't want to be in the closet too long with them. It's this like these crazy, and I love that Judy Blume, how she's introducing to children, to a child audience, I almost started to swear, how ridiculously arbitrary all of this is. Mm-hmm. Why do you need to wear loafers with no socks? What's that do? What is that for?
When I was a teenager, you had a backpack. You would never wear your backpack over both shoulders.
Yes, cut to our neck and back problems for the rest of our lives.
Right.
Right?
Nobody wore it that way. You were a total dork if you wore it the proper way. You had to sling it over one shoulder. And we had books, y'all. Nothing was digital. So we were schlepping that crap around. Yes. So
on the one shoulder.
Teenagers, they always have dumb rules. It's just being a teenager. And it's also figuring yourself out as a person. But there is also just, I'm working on a book about Saturday Night Fever right now, and there's a whole story in there where Tony tells Annette in the TV version, are you a good girl or are you a pig? It's the same thing. Like, be pretty, but not too pretty.
Mm-hmm. Be sexy, but not too sexy.
Not too sexy.
Yeah.
You can have a boy kiss you, but don't be too excited to try to kiss him back. There are all the games you have to play, and then there's all the games the boys have to play as well.
But then in this book, she's so brilliant. But then in this book, we also have this added layer of the adults dealing with the arbitrary rules of their world, religion, and you can't marry you can't fall in love with somebody who's Jewish, let alone marry them. You have to participate in the PTA. You can't have a career. You can't be creative. You can't do this. And they are also chafing against these very arbitrary expectations that are going on. It's just told in this very natural. You just totally believe it, that they're a family and they're just trying to navigate all of this.
And I don't know about you. We forgot to, the reason the way it's titled is that Margaret consults with God in her own way. Like she meditates or she talks to herself or she journal, whatever you want to call that. But that's how she questions the world. And that's how she's trying to figure out her place in it. I think she likes the idea of God, but she doesn't know what kind of power God has. What if I'm a really good person, will everything go my way? Do I get punished for things or for that I didn't do? is wife arbitrary that way? I mean, there's lots of bigger questions that's happening, which also I think that freaks some people out. But, because she's just figuring her way on her own, but just kind of move it along. So Margaret, Margaret's going to go and visit her grandmother in Florida. Her grandma's amazing. Like, she's staying the winter in Florida, and she meets a guy when she's down there, and she sends Margaret these notes like, he's a nice man. People think we should, I'd like you to meet him. And she's all set to do that. And then all of a sudden, because Margaret's mother sent a Christmas card kind of arbitrarily, just through to her parents, like, oh, hey, we moved. Hope you have a nice Christmas. And then they call her and say, we're coming to town. We'd like to see you. And that's the week Margaret's supposed to go and visit her grandmother that she misses very much. And so Margaret then can't go to Florida. She has to stay in Jersey and meet these people who never bothered to meet her before.
And who were so cruel to her father and mother.
Right. And her parents are being like, no, you got to be nice to them. Right. And you don't understand that when you're a kid. I mean, when you're older, it's like, no, you should be yelling at them and hating them. And they're like, no, they're family, and you got to see if you can work things out, Yeah.
So I was going to say we'll talk about the movie because I really like the way the movie does this, but something that wasn't, I don't think, in the movie that is in the book is they send a letter. I can't remember what the mom's name is, but anyway,
Barbara,
I think it might be Barbara, and they send her a letter because they've got her address because she sent a Christmas card or holiday card, and in the letter it says something to the effect of, we've been starting to wonder over these years whether we didn't make a mistake. And so because of the way the letter is worded in the book, like, there is some reason you as the reader and the mom and the dad have some reason to hope, like, maybe they actually could have some discourse. Like, there's maybe an opening there. Turns out there's not, but maybe there is. But when you get the letter, you think like, yeah, okay, so maybe we can find someplace in the middle. So that's, you kind of understand a little bit more why they decide to go ahead and not just like shut these people out forever.
Right. And then the father is not happy. He's
oh no.
It's Barbara's the one that's like, look, it's the only time they've ever kind of reached out. I was like, if they're going to be here, we can't just say no. We should at least try. And her dad isn't like an open book for them. He's got his walls up, and Margaret notices, like, he's, you don't want me to exist, basically. You think I'm, so the grandparents are also there just to evangelize a bit, just to find out, is she baptized? Yeah. And that's what they care about. And when they say no, and she's going to pick on her own, and they're very upset because they're like, and in their, let's just give them some compassion. In their minds, that's the only way to live. Like, they're damning her to something terrible.
Right. Yeah.
I'm trying. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Just reaching out, doing some compassion work here. But poor Margaret's in the middle of all this. And then she says at one point, like, I don't know if I even believe in God. I don't know what's going on. Because she's questioning all these things. I'm trying to do everything right. I'm trying to be good and do everything right. And things keep like happening. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of what life is like. It's just sometimes you can do everything right and it all kind of, you got to figure it out. And in the long run, we find out that Nancy is the first one who says they all decide they're going to tell each other when they get their period, which is what I wanted, a group of friends like that, but I didn't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I would have loved that. Like, I would have felt less weird. You know what my dad did when my mom told him? He brought home a red rose and brought it to me. I know.
How did you feel about that?
I wanted to die. I didn't want my period. I didn't want a bra. Like, I wanted to be a little kid. I didn't want to, it was too soon for me. But my poor dad was doing the best he could. Like, he thought he was being,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so funny. Like, these things, all the stuff comes up too. Like,
I know, you go right back there, right? I know.
That place. But Nancy, turns out, lied. She said when she was on a family vacation, she got her period, but she didn't. And Margaret finds out when they're all going out to dinner in the city, and then Nancy's in the restroom and she's crying hysterically, and she has to bring her mother over, and their mom says, oh, this is her first time having her period. And that's when she realized Nancy was a big liar, lying pants. And then she realizes maybe and then she becomes friendly with the tall girl who says, why are you always mean to me? You don't understand what it's like. I don't want to be this tall. I don't want any of this.
Yeah.
And that's when she realizes, like, oh, maybe I was mean to her, and that's why this thing happened to me. She's like, she understands consequences and things like that.
She really goes through a lot of growth as more than most adults. I would say, she really starts to like really think about things from other people's point of view. Wow, that must have been really hard for my mom. Wow, that must have been really difficult for my dad. That probably really hurt him.
Yeah.
And oh gosh, maybe I shouldn't believe something just because a friend tells me that happened,
Right.
How does she know that? And yeah, she really starts to look at herself and the way that she is making decisions in the world. And it's so impressive. It's such an impressive character.
She, in the end, she does go to temple with her grandmother. She does go to a Christian church with her friends. Each time she's kind of like, I'm not sure what they're saying. It's really long.
Mm-hmm.
I'm counting feathers and hats and things like that because I can't. And that was me the entire time I was going to church when I was a kid. I just could not focus. But anyway, so in the end, Margaret gets her period and she's ready to like whatever God has it, whatever life has planned for her. She's one of my favorite literary characters. I stand by that.
Same. I mean, so as we mentioned, we cried a lot.
I cried a lot.
Let me tell you what made me cry. And I'm going to like tear up just thinking about it. It's so silly. Oh my God. Okay. I got to get myself together here. I cried because I read a recent version of it, right? So I cried. She gets her period and she's been practicing, right? So, it describes how she gets the pad and it describes it as a child would experience it today. Mm-hmm. They updated it so that a child reading it today, I'm going to cry, would have the information she needs.
Yeah. Or
they need to be able to get through that if they didn't have anybody in their life but this book. I know. She's pulling the little sticky back off the maxi pad and I'm weeping here. I was like, oh my God, kids today are going to know what to do. Yeah. It just really got me. And because as I said, you and I were reading the thing about the belt.
Yes.
Which, I mean, at least you saw it in the drugstore. You would occasionally see the thing with the belt and be like,
I'm telling you,
these?
When I went to middle school, Westchester, Pennsylvania, they must, like I said, they bought in bulk because we all joked about it too. Like you would put the quarter or whatever it was and it would come out of the thing and the box was just big.
Giant. It was like a shoebox.
We were just like, how do you walk in this? Like, when you sit, it would make that sound, that squishy.
I know.
God.
Oh, it was horrible, you guys.
So many clothes ruined, sheets ruined, mattresses. I'm sorry, all the men that are running away from this. They were going to run away anyway.
This is how it is.
I remember this. The other thing I remember is like comedians in the 80s used to really hack comedians would make this joke like, oh, now they have a thing with wings. Ha ha. What is that? Yeah. You fly out of the bedroom like. Wings are the greatest invention of the 20th century.
Wings
Game changer.
Are a revelation.
Game changer.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
They're the best. Yeah, but no one talks about this stuff. And even today, we're thinking 50 years later, it's got to be rote by now, like how they teach kids, what age, what information. And it's not.
It's not.
And that's
they're
also upsetting.
This book
yes.
From 50 plus years ago. That tells you it's not. They're not. These kids are not getting that information. There are so many kids who are not getting the information that they need. And what kind of trauma are they going through?
Right.
Thinking that they're going through this all by themselves. Right. I mean, it gets me so upset. This is the thing about Banned Book Month.
And then schools, there are a lot of schools that don't have nurses full time.
Absolutely.
There's a lot. I mean, and then there's girls that have to fight for schools to provide these tampons and stuff for free. And people are like, why are we paying for that? I'm like, why do you pay for paper towels to wash your hands? Why do you pay for toilet paper? Or the liner for the toilet seat? Like, of course. I mean, like nobody, and it's expensive. The good stuff is expensive. You have to buy in bulk because you don't know what's going to happen because
And there are kids.
And they're
There are
children.
kids whose parents can't afford to buy that stuff.
Right. Quality level is very different between the cheap stuff and the more expensive stuff. And it's, there's a whole lot of marches I would be in about this. I mean, trust me.
Yeah.
Because
I know.
we're 50% of the population. I mean,
it so holds up.
Yes.
I was just so, it was such a joyous experience to read this book again as an adult, again, with a daughter who's already gone, she's well past that now, and I feel like maybe one day I might have a granddaughter who could read this book and still get out of it, what you and I got out of it. It's amazing.
Speaking of amazing, do we talk about the movie now? Okay. All right, we're going to play the trailer, this amazing trailer for this. I mean, this is going to be tough, Margot, because
it's a good trailer.
It's a great trailer. It's a great movie. So let's get into the trailer right now.
Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret.
I'm here to speak to you today about your changing bodies.
The blood is released through the vagina.
Please, just do this one thing for me. Let me just be normal and regular like everybody else. Just please, 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 please.
What I feel, I can't say.
I've decided I want you to join my secret club. If you want to be in the club, then you have to wear a bra.
Oh. You think you need one?
Are you okay? You can tell me the truth.
Fine. Good. Yes. We have the Campus Improvement Committee. Any volunteers? Social Committee. Fundraising Committee. And how are you?
I read that when you don't have any loved ones around, your life expectancy drops drastically, but I've had a good run.
Gets tiring. Trying so hard all the time, doesn't it?
I don't know if I want to do this. Just that we're ready. Please, God, let it be a lady.
Do you think any of us will look like that when we're 19? We must increase our bust!
I was on the plane, and it's showing on Southwest. Right now it's September, it's Banned Book Month, and it is on Southwest Airlines. If you're on a Southwest Airlines flight, I think it's getconnectedsouthwest.com. It's where you go on your phone, and all the movies come up. And you can watch the trailer for all of the movies that they offer. They have a lot of movies on there. And I saw that it was there, so of course I watched the trailer on the plane. On the plane, Margot, I went,
Okay, and let me say this. I am so happy they made it the 70s, by the way. I think that's the stroke of genius. Like, that's what it had to be. It's a timeless story.
I was not prepared. I was so prepared for it not to live up to the book.
Well, how could it?
How could it?
Look how emotional we are just talking about this book. That we read in the sixth grade.
Calm down.
Yeah.
You got to calm down, Margot. Like, it's just not going to be. It's so perfect. It's so perfect. It's so. I mean, the furniture, everything. Their New York apartment. I love their New York apartment.
Oh, I wanted to stay in that apartment, didn't you?
Yeah. Like, why are you moving? Do you have any idea what that's going to be worth?
How was camp?
It was amazing.
So you were in a play?
Yep.
Oh my God, it's incredible.
What are those boxes for?
Don't worry about that. I want to hear more about camp. What else you learned? What else did you do?
You're moving.
What?
Really, Mom?
Sylvia.
Oh,
You
wow.
promised.
We're moving?
Look,
She saw the boxes.
Yeah,
she was putting it together.
I don't think she was.
We're moving?
Okay,
Just.
look, we wanted you to settle in before we sprung the news, but your dad got his promotion.
Yeah. Isn't that great?
And we found this great house.
Oh, the best
Where?
house. The best house.
Well, that's the thing. We got really lucky.
New Jersey.
Ah.
New Jersey?
I'm sorry.
Oh.
I am so upset for Margaret because I'm a city kid. I knew this about myself at a very young age. I'm a city kid. I'm like, why are we leaving New York? I mean, Jersey's fine. I went to high school in New Jersey, and it's great. But anyway, director, screenplay by Kelly Fremont Craig, James L. Brooks. We know this is going to be a decent production because he's produced some of the best TV shows and books, 70s and 80s mostly. But
yeah,
he's a part of this now. He's been friends with Judy Blume forever. He's always wanted her to do this, and she said no for 49 plus years. You're not going to do it right. You're going to make it cheesy or something. I don't want to be a part of that. Like, this is her baby. This is her favorite. And so let's start with, I'm going to cry, Margaret Simon, Abby Ryder Fortson. Oh, what a debut for me. Anyway, I haven't seen her anything before, and just blew me away.
In the trailer, like I told you, I gasped audibly on the plane. I was like, oh my God, that's her.
It's Margaret.
She's Margaret. There she is. It's like how she's always been in my head all these years.
Excuse me. We're looking for a bra for my daughter.
Well, we don't have many that small. But come with me, dear. I'll measure you. Arms up, dear. Barely a 28. Not even a double A. Your best bet is going to be to go with one of these grow bras here. So one day when you do grow, it'll grow with you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thanks. We'll just go try it on. Oh, yeah. I'll just, yep. Here we go. This is always the tough bit. I can't even do this to this day. Okay. All right. Can I see? How's that feel?
I cannot wait to take it off.
Yeah. Welcome to womanhood.
How did they find this child?
I wish I knew that story because she's incredible. Rachel McAdams as Barbara Simon. I mean, I've always liked her. I think
so good.
Yeah,
she is that again. Each one of them, each person in this film, is exactly as I have always imagined them for almost half a century.
Most of my life. Kathy Bates is Sylvia Simon, the grandma, and
come on, what?
Benny Safdie is Herb Simon, the dad.
He's perfect. He's perfect.
Elle Graham is Nancy Wheeler, the next door neighbor. That kid is got some talent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amari Alexis Price, is Janie Loomis. Adorable. Her
all
mom.
The girls.
Just
all the kids.
All the kids are great. I'm sorry, Catherine Cupfair, Gretchen Potter, Kate McCluggage is Jan Wheeler. She's the mom in charge of all the PTA stuff.
The PTA, the perfect mom,
the
with
terrifying
the
woman
marks on her white carpet,
with that hair. That's the other word to the wind. Helmet hair. Aiden Wojak, his song is Moose Freed. Just that perfect preteen crush boy. Landon Baxter's Evan Wheeler. Echo Kellum is Mr. Benedict, who's so good. The teacher.
He's fantastic.
Zachary Brooks is Philip Leroy, so he's like the big crush, and turns out he's a big creep. Or he is at this age. Yeah. Maybe he outgrows it. Isal Young. I'm so sorry if I say it incorrectly. Laura Danker, who's lovely. And
she's wonderful too. All these kids are so good.
Mia Dillon as Mary Hutchins and Gary Houston as Paul Hutchins. So they set this in. They start in New York City. And Margaret shows up, and she comes back from camp. She was in New England for the summer. Hey, I'm back in New York. It's going to be fall. Yay, I'm going to school. And they're like, we're moving. And there's just moving boxes everywhere.
Yeah.
brought stuff up for me. And that just...
Yep, I know. I'm sure it did. That happened to me. Like I said, we moved at that age too. And it was the same thing. Like I came home from school one day and there was a for sale sign in front of my house. And that was the first that I heard that we were moving.
It's just, and I think about it also now, we moved several times. My mom had to do it all. And my mom worked full time. And it's,
God, love that woman.
I know. So they moved to New Jersey. She immediately meets Nancy. And just like in the book, they really bring it to life in the movie. The stuff about borrowing the bathing suit. And Margaret's just figuring out, oh my God, the kids here are different than they were in New York. And Nancy's got this little group together. And she's very insistent. Like, I love the part where she like pretends to kiss the bedpost. Like she's such a weirdo, but I love her. She's trying to play sophisticated, and maybe because Margaret's from the city, she thinks she's going to be, but she's not. And then she goes to the school and she meets the kids, and she's just figuring her way around. The mother character, Rachel McAdams, is so amazing with Margaret. They have such great chemistry together.
They do. They have a really close relationship, and you get that tight knitness that you have in the book. As you learn more about her, if you've never read the book and you're just seeing it in the movie, like as you learn more about her, you see that like she has really kind of had to make her own way. She's not the typical suburban PTA mom, but she is a little bit. She does do some of the PTA mom things, just not all of them, and not with perfect vacuum marks on her white carpet. She's also trying to find her place in this new, because she thought, oh, great, I won't have to work anymore. I'll be able to spend more time with my kid and I'll be able to pursue my creative interests. And then she's like, oh, crap, I have to buy all the furniture and I have to do all this stuff. And
he's so nice. He just puts the lawn furniture into the living room. He's like, I'm fine. He's so lovely. That whole thing with the lawnmower, do you remember that? I didn't remember that from the book. The dad, I
forgot about that too.
I guess because I would have been too scarring, but they learned quickly. Like they're city mouses. They have to adapt to being suburban mouses. She has a teacher that wants her to develop a paper. All the kids have to come up with a project. He's like, you're old enough now when you come up with a project that you're going to work on for a year. And there's one of them is for her. It's, he notices that she says, I hate religious holidays. And he kind of sits to her side like, what's up with that? Just, well, I don't have any religion. He goes, oh, okay. So it's just maybe you want to think about that some more. Laura is ostracized. The way they film it, like you just feel for this girl because she's like a half foot or foot taller than everybody. And I can't imagine how that just...
As somebody who was always the shortest one, I'm very short, y'all. As somebody who was always the shortest one in the class, I have to say, like, it has to be, it's not hard to be the shortest one in the class. If you're a girl, it is not that hard. It's not like a burden of any kind, but to be the tallest girl is rough. Especially and to be the shortest boy, to be the, if for boys it's a little different. If you're the shortest or the tallest, it's rough either way. But as somebody who was always the shortest girl, like it gave me zero trouble. Yeah. But if I had been developing early, and I was always later than everybody else because I was younger than everybody else, but yeah, like those, I remember there was a girl in our class who was starting to develop and had got her period. And I think we must have been in like third or fourth grade.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And really talk about feeling like you're the only one. You just feel so, I didn't feel for Laura the way I do now. I just feel like I just want to go hug her.
I know. I wish I want to be a teacher in that room and reach out to her. And Margaret has a great relationship with, and I just think Kathy Bates as the grandmother is just such a stroke of genius. We might talk about her when we do scary movies in October, but we've talked about her before when we did Primary Colors. That was a long time ago. She's just one of the greats, but she's like Margaret's like staple into New York City. Like she's that stability that she has. In the movie also, we didn't talk about this, but in the book, there is a party. You invited to a party when you're a kid, and all of a sudden the games are different than they used to be.
Oh, yes.
All right, I'll just okay. I'll just yeah. Okay.
You do that.
Have fun.
He's hilarious.
How come she never talks to anybody? I don't know.
Because she's too busy doing other stuff. That's why.
Now, if everybody's had enough to eat, we can start the games.
The games?
I'll spin first.
Okay, now it's Janie's turn to spin.
This is a great party.
Do we have to play this game? Well, then let's play a different game, huh? I have one. It's called 2 Minutes in the Closet.
What's that?
Well, we all get a number, and then somebody will call out, like, number 6. And then those two will go into the closet and, you know...
And there's no adults in the room. They're upstairs in the basement paneling. We all remember. Those of us that are old enough to remember. There was Spin the Bottle, and there was 7 Minutes in Heaven, or there was all kinds of games that were played, and they get that awkwardness so well because they actually have kids like sitting around there.
They're actual children. And you see, yeah, something about watching it as an adult and like seeing these very young children trying to figure this out is you get the absurdity of it on a level that you don't when you're reading it as a kid.
So the grandparents do show up, and it's just as awkward as it is in the book. And that's when I feel for her mother quite a bit, because she is really straddling so many things here, you know, trying to be open. I like the fact that in the movie, her parents come over and her grandma and her boyfriend come over at the same time.
Yes, that's different than in the book. In the book, the mother's parents come, they have a fight, the parents leave early. They're supposed to stay like a week, but they're not even there for like a day. And so Margaret's vacation has been ruined for nothing.
For nothing.
And then like the following day, fun grandma shows up with her new boyfriend. But in the movie, and I agree, I think that was a cool choice to have them all in the room at once. Really visual way gives you all of the turmoil that all the different directions that she's being pulled in. It makes sense to have it when you're watching it happen visually, to have it actually with the actual people in the room, I think is a good choice.
I used to braid your mom's hair when she was a little girl. Did your mom ever braid your hair?
Yeah, she used to do it all the time.
I can see she taught you how to braid with your bracelet.
Yeah.
Oh, there's just so much we want to get to know about you, Margaret.
12 years is a lot to catch up on.
Yeah, long time.
So, we were wondering, do you go to Sunday school? Or, have you ever thought about it?
Nope. Never. Not once.
We asked Margaret the question, Sylvia.
Margaret? Well, you're wasting your time because Margaret went to temple and she's Jewish.
What did you say?
Excuse me.
Margaret went to temple.
Okay,
What are
Mom,
you talking
you're
about?
done. Okay, that's it.
Well, you left the room and they're trying to convert her.
Well, Margaret has a right to be baptized if she wants to be.
Baptized?
If she wants to be.
I can't believe this. I can't believe you're doing this.
All right, everyone, this discussion is over. We're her parents, and this discussion is over.
Yeah, you're right. It's over because she's already Jewish.
Sylvia? Well, in our eyes, she's Christian.
No, Margaret is nothing. Margaret is not Jewish or Christian. She is no religion until she decides.
Well, how can she be Jewish if her mother is Christian?
Stop.
Okay,
You were
come
never
on.
there for her. You
What does it
abandoned
matter?
her.
Do you think that we wanted this?
Have
to
you
break our
forgotten
hearts?
these stole our family away from
Stop
us?
it! All of you, just stop it. I don't care. I don't care anymore. It's all just so stupid. Religion. Just stop fighting. I don't want a religion. I don't care. I don't care.
Margaret,
And when she gave her little performance about, well, I'm not even sure how I feel or what and I cried and cried and cried because, I mean, also like, when are young girls ever useful in a movie? Like, when do they ever, we're never treated as people. We're just kind of, and so somebody just being real and, it's just going to get to me. I also, I loved her visit with the rabbi at the temple. And then going to the black church with her friend and like, well, I didn't really understand, but it was fun. Like, I loved her exploration.
I enjoyed very much the and Judy Blume, we should say, does a brilliant job of describing, because Margaret in the book also, she goes to the temple, she goes to a church, and Judy Blume does a really awesome job of, if me, when I was reading it, guys, I was going to Catholic church, at the time.
Same.
I had never been in a synagogue before. I had never been to a temple or anything like that, so I didn't know what it was like. So she does a good job of describing what it's like, and vice versa. If you had never been in a Catholic church, you'd never gone into a confessional, like, it seems really weird and creepy, and like, what is that about? And I think she did a really awesome job of painting that picture.
Yeah.
But I love the way that they show it in the movie. It's great. And you see her like, I like some things about this. At each one, there's certain things that she does like.
She's a smart kid and she's sensitive and she takes things in. So in the end, she hands in her, to Mr. Benedict, her paper about her disillusionment with religion. And she does reconcile with her parents. And she comes to a place of, she also, like I said, before that, she just kind of learns her lessons. She understands life is complicated. There's nobody knows everything. We're all just trying to go along and do our best and be the best person we can be and make good choices. I love how much she loves her mother and father and how much she appreciates them. And like you and I both said, like, they're wonderful people. They're really good parents. Like, I think they're their PTA. They're parent goals. Also, in the end, Margaret's mother decides that she's going to go back to painting, which is what she missed doing. So she's going to go back to teaching people and being creative, which is what she really...
Okay. So there's a scene in the movie that is not in the book at all, because I love the whole storyline about... The book touches on this, but it's really centered about Margaret. But part of the mother's arc of the movie is that, as we said before, she's trying to find her place in this suburban world, and so she begins by, because she's very creative and has a lot of energy, and so she goes to the PTA and she volunteers for all the things, and it like does her in. And Nancy's mom takes advantage of that, and really takes advantage of her and makes her do all kinds of extra stuff that she shouldn't be. Asks way too much of her. And then at the end of the movie, the mom is teaching art classes, which is, of course, what she should be doing. Of course, that's what she should be doing. And as she's walking out to her car after like a successful art class, Nancy's mom walks up to her and is like, "Oh, I'm so glad now that the girls are in junior high, we're going to need somebody to do this and that, and can I count on you to like cut up all the tomatoes for the picnic, basically?" And the mom goes, "Oh, I'd love to, but I don't want to." How many of us moms have wanted to say that?
Oh my God.
Yes, I'd love to, but the thing is, just don't want to.
Well, because she makes her cut like 10,000 stars for the ceiling of the gym. Like, and her mother's like, "What are we doing with our time here? Like, this is what we're spending it on." And she's smart and she's creative and she's got that energy. She needs to be doing something else. So Margaret, her dad, she gets to like her big crush, Moose, she gets to tip him like his money for the summer, and she lets him know like, "Oh, hey, I'm going away to camp again." And he says, "Oh, when you come back, can we hang out?" And she's like, "Yeah." So that happens, and then immediately she goes to the bathroom, and then she gets her period, and then she and her mom have this moment where they're hugging each other, and I start crying all over again. I can't watch Rachel McAdams cry. I'm just gonna lose it. This is like my new thing. Like, when I need to get in touch with my emotions and I'm having a hard time accessing my emotions, I think I'm going to watch this movie. I think that's what's going to... It's so cleansing. And she gets her period and she's heading off to camp and she starts talking with God again. So she's just kind of, and that's this wonderful movie that's, it's so wonderful, you guys.
No notes. It's
no
perfect.
notes.
It's perfect.
No notes.
I loved every minute of it. I loved every casting decision. I loved each one of the girls in the preteen sensations. The every single thing was somehow exactly how it's always existed in my brain.
Yeah.
How did they do that? I do not know. The soundtrack was great.
Yep.
The art direction was perfect. The costumes and the hair were all perfect. And I mean, it's absolutely, and what we have now is not only this wonderful book that's done what it's done, all the good that this book has done for so many millions of people, kids, we also now have a movie that's going to do the same thing.
Yep.
How amazing is that?
Yeah.
Nevertheless, I got to go with the book.
I'm going to go with the book only because, but I will say, if you love the book, you must see this movie. You must.
I know.
You must. You must see this movie.
If you love this book and you've been avoiding this movie, like I was, I'm going to say it, I was avoiding it because I thought, I don't want the movie, because sometimes this happens, as we know, we talk about this on this show.
We've had it happen.
Sometimes you have the book and you love this book so much and you love these characters so much, and then you watch that movie and you're like, oh.
That's not how I pictured it, and they took that part out.
I never read that line that way before. Oh. This is not that. You just watch it. Just watch it.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's so amazingly good.
And let your preteen watch it and encourage it, and get the Judy Blume books, get the period book, get them all. It's normalized periods. Like we have to say that. Yes, please.
It is 2023.
Y'all.
Can we just all get over
21st century
the fact that periods happen? And can we just like make them happen as easily as possible for once and for all?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm going to say the book too, but this movie is exceptional, and it
really is.
It's wonderful.
It really is. It's I mean, look, again, I loved Barbie. Barbie is a juggernaut for a reason. It is an awesome movie. Love it. This is as good as Barbie, if not better.
I haven't seen Barbie yet.
You haven't seen it yet? It's very good.
I know.
Very good. But this is at least as good. And I don't know why people aren't like shouting it from the rooftops.
Wish. So they released this in April of this year. Yes, there was Maverick last summer, and that brought a lot of people to the theater. And I know around the holidays, but I think with Barbie and Oppenheimer, and most of my friends have gone to see those movies. I think people are going to the theaters again and getting excited. And I think if they had released this now in the fall, it might have been better.
Right before school starts.
Right before school starts. Beginnings, that whole thing. After Barbie, I think there would have been a line out the door for it.
It is outstanding.
It's really that good. But maybe a bunch of people will stream it and it'll become a classic. And
I hope so. It's such a great. It's such a great movie just on its own. Let alone what an amazing adaptation it is. Every performance is so good. I love Mr. Binneman, her boyfriend. How cute is he? Like, of course, that's what he
reminds
looks like.
with
That's
Cinnamon.
Exactly how I imagine him.
And I even liked it. Like, we must. And then her brother comes tearing in, and then Nancy just goes, ah! Like, I used to screech at the top of my lungs at my brothers for being so annoying. It's very realistic. You just feel it. It's very human. And I just, no notes. Like you said, this is, I don't know how you get better than this. It's just,
you can't. You cannot. It's absolutely perfect. I don't know how they did it. I don't know how they made that story exactly how it has lived in my brain all these years.
I'm going to say, I also think a woman needed to direct it and write it.
Yeah.
Frankly,
I agree.
There's just something about being a young girl and understanding what that feels like.
Yeah. I just watch it. Just watch it. If you have not seen it, I mean, we see. You might think we've spoiled it for you. We haven't. I promise.
No.
You will still love it.
You will still love
good.
it. And especially Kathy Bates, that's a fantastic performance. I mean,
she's
such
I
a
really
light.
love, and this was something that I oddly that I was worried about in terms of a movie version of this. One of the things that I was mostly worried about was that character of the grandma, and
being a stereotype,
being too much the wacky fun grandma, and not enough the actually genuinely super concerned about Margaret.
I love them when they're in bed together. And the grandma tells that story how she wears the gloves to bed, and then she stroked her face. She was and she thought somebody was in the room. It was and her genuine laughing, telling that story, their love for each other is so incredible.
And when they call her to tell her that the vacation is canceled, and she is angry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love that we got to see that. It's just, every single person is a human being in this, and I just love it.
All right. Well,
so just watch it.
It's a love fest. That's all this is. This is a love fest.
That's all it is.
All right. So we were talking before the show about what we were going to cover next. We're going to cover Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. And the film we're going to...
about banning books. The book about banning books.
And it's a real book. We're going to be... And it's available everywhere. It's super easy to get. And we're watching the version with Michael B. Jordan. I think it's streaming on HBO Max, but also it's for rent in other places. It's easy. All this is easy peasy to get. Please follow us. All those places I mentioned at the top of the show. Send us your suggestions. Once again, if you'd like some stickers, or I've got a couple of coasters left, book versus movie podcast at gmail.com. Margot, where can they find you?
You can find me online at coloniabook.com, and all of my social media callouts are at She's Nacho Mama. And where can they find you?
You can find me at Brooklyn Margot for Twitter, Instagram, Instagram, my site, and Threads. It's Brooklyn Fit Chick. And on TikTok, where I'll have some clips from the movie, I'm at my name, Margot Donahue. All right, everybody, we'll be back soon with Fahrenheit 451. Thank you so much for listening to the Book versus Movie podcast. We are a part of the Frolic Podcast Network. You can find more podcasts you will love at frolic.media/podcasts. We follow the hashtags Lady Pod Squad and Podern Family. If you want to support the show, you can go to our Patreon page.